Political commentators are today expressing shock at Keir Starmer's brutal, though cack-handed targeting of the Labour left on the eve of a general election. That's because they haven't been paying attention. It's been obvious for a long time that Keir Starmer is in charge of a brutalist, inhuman, pitiless political machine. 2 years ago, Al Jazeera's Labour files exposed the bleak truth about Starmer's Labour. The 4-part political investigation was a staggering feat of political reporting based on the biggest leak of confidential documents in British political history. It provided a mass of documentary evidence and personal testimony which proved that the Labour machine bullied party members and shamelessly manipulated internal democracy. More shocking still, Al Jazeera brought to light a hidden story of anti-black racism and naked Islamophobia inside Labour HQ. Incredibly, the Al Jazeera investigation was totally ignored by the mainstream media. The reason is simple. Gullible political journalists swallowed uncritically the Starmer narrative that the new Labour leader had brought common sense and decency to a party which had descended into a cesspit of bigotry and anti-Semitism under Jeremy Corbyn. This narrative was almost totally false, the Labour files proved. Let's forensically examine the treatment meted out to Diane Abbott, then a senior member of Jeremy Corbyn's shadow cabinet. The right-wing clique, which in the early years of the Corbyn leadership controlled the Labour bureaucracy, despised her. The Labour files exposed the WhatsApp messages of a senior management group. One senior official wrote about Diane Abbott, "She literally makes me sick." Another said, "Abbott is truly repulsive." The treatment of Diane Abbott, the first black woman ever to serve as an MP, is far from the only example of this kind of Labour racism. The Labour files also contain evidence of a secret dossier which was used to disenfranchise approximately 5,000 largely Muslim Labour members accused of infiltrating the party in Newham. One of those named in the dossier told Al Jazeera that it seems to me that somebody is actually working inside the Labour Party against ethnic minorities. It should be said in fairness that when approached ahead of the screening of the programme, Labour denied allegations of racism. It is important to note, however, that the findings of the Labour files were awarded credibility not long afterwards, when Martin Ford KC published his report into anti-Semitism and other forms of discrimination inside Labour. Mr. Ford, who had been commissioned by Starmer, found, I quote, "deplorably factional and insensitive attitudes towards Diane Abbott." He identified what he called a hierarchy of racism within Labour, with anti-Semitism taken more seriously within the party than other forms of racism. Incredibly, Keir Starmer has not acted on all of Ford's recommendations. He has been under little pressure to do so. Though the media did not completely ignore Ford's findings, as with the Labour files, it largely trivialised or misrepresented them. Whatever the motive behind Starmer's decision to sideline Ford, he certainly sent out a green light to racists in the Labour ranks that anti-black racism would go unpunished. The treatment of Diane Abbott is therefore a direct result of this negligence by Labour's leader and probable future Prime Minister.